The target on Earth. The night sky over Earth was calm. Stars blinked quietly, hiding the secret that something dangerous had just arrived. A small black ship, invisible to human eyes, moved through the clouds and landed deep in a forest near the human city of Sanvora. The ship opened and out stepped a tall, dark figure in a smooth silver suit. His skin was dark blue. His eyes glowed like fire. He was an assassin, an elite one from the alien empire called Threxian Syndicate. His name was Kale. Kale did not speak. He simply walked forward, a small device in his hand flashing red. The target's face appeared on the screen. A human male, mid-30s with messy hair and kind eyes. Name, Dr. Elias Ward. Job, scientist. Status, dangerous to the Empire. Order, terminate. Kale blinked once and the screen vanished. His mission had started. Dr. Elias Ward was a quiet man. He lived alone, worked at the city's science lab, and often went to the local shelter to help orphaned alien children, victims of wars Earth had taken no part in. Elias had no weapons, no guards. He never locked his doors. He believed in peace. But peace had brought a target on his back. Kale watched Elias from a distance, through windows, through walls. His suit could blend into shadows. He followed him to the lab, to the market, to the rooftop where Elias sometimes sat and stared at the stars. "Why don't you kill him already?" asked a voice in Kale's ear. It was his commander. "I'm studying the human," Kale replied, calmly. "You are not there to study. You are there to execute." Kyle didn't respond. That evening, Elias stopped in the rain to help a crying alien child, one of the street orphans. The child was cold, shaking. No one else cared. Elias wrapped his own coat around the child and took him to the shelter. Kale stood in the alley across the street. He had been trained to ignore emotions. Feelings were weaknesses. But something about this human was different. Why save a child? Why give away your only coat? Why risk sickness for someone not even from your own planet? Kale stepped back, confused. The next day, Elias dropped his grocery bag. Fruit rolled onto the ground. People passed by without helping. Kale, still in disguise as a normal man, picked up an apple and gave it back to Elias. "Thanks," Elias said with a smile. "You're the first kind person I've seen all day." Kyle said nothing and walked away quickly. His heart felt strange. Not fear, not hate. Something new. That night, Kyle stood in the darkness of Elias's apartment. The human was asleep on the couch, a book resting on his chest. His glasses tilted to the side. A warm cup of tea sat untouched nearby. Kyle pulled out a tiny knife, silent, sharp, deadly. He moved closer. One strike. 1 second. The mission would be complete. But something stopped him. There was a photo on the wall. Elias stood next to a woman and a little girl, all three smiling, happy. Under it, a small note was written, "My world. Gone too soon." Kyle's hand began to shake. For a second, his grip loosened. Then Elias spoke in his sleep, voice broken. "I couldn't save them. I couldn't." Kyle dropped the knife. He stepped back into the shadows, heart pounding. The man wasn't evil. He was broken, and kind, and full of pain. He didn't know how long he stood there, watching the human sleep. Back on the ship, Kale stared at his own reflection. "Report," the commander said. Kale whispered, "Target not eliminated." "Why?" Kale's eyes glowed brighter. "I'm not sure yet." The screen went black. The man who smiled at death. Kyle did not return to his ship that night. He stood on a rooftop, watching the sunrise paint the sky in soft orange and blue. Humans were strange. Their world was loud, messy, but alive. And now, Kale, an assassin from the cold, silent Threxian Empire, felt something stir inside him, something he was never trained to feel. He should have killed the target, but instead he had watched Elias sleep. Elias Ward sipped tea at a small cafe that morning. His face was tired, his eyes distant. Yet he smiled at the server. He said, "Thank you." He tipped well. Cale sat a few tables away, wearing his human disguise. His skin was tan now, eyes dull, hair short. He looked like any other man, but inside he was full of fire and confusion. Kyle listened closely. Dr. Ward, a young alien boy, called, running toward the cafe. The child was skinny, eyes wide. "Hey, Pax," Elias said with warmth, kneeling. "Did you eat today?" The boy shook his head. Elias gave him his full plate of food without a second thought. Cale froze. Why would a human give away his only meal to a child who wasn't even human? Elias looked over and noticed Cale watching. "You're new," Elias said kindly, walking over. "I haven't seen you here before." Kyle stood slowly. "I'm just passing through." Elias chuckled. "Aren't we all?" He held out a hand. "I'm Elias." Kyle shook it without thinking. Kai. A fake name. But his voice shook. "Nice to meet you, Kai." Elias smiled. "If you're ever hungry, come by the shelter. We share what we can." Kyle was speechless. This man had no idea he was shaking hands with a killer. That night, Cale returned to his hidden ship and opened his private mission log. Subject, Elias Ward. Behavior, gentle, protective of alien children. Threat level, unknown. Emotional impact. On assassin increasing. He stared at those words. What was wrong with him? Was this human changing him? A sharp sound broke the silence. A communication signal. Cale opened it. His commander's face appeared. Cold. Silver-eyed. "Report." "I'm still observing," Cale replied flatly. "You've had 3 days. You were trained for 1 strike. Why delay?" Cale paused. "The target is not as expected." "Does he know about the formula?" "He doesn't even know he's a target," Cale said quietly. The commander narrowed his eyes. "If you do not complete the mission in 24 hours, another assassin will." The screen went dark. Cale clenched his jaw. Another assassin? That meant Elias would die. And this time no one would hesitate. Kyle returned to the city. He found Elias in the old library, helping alien students learn to read. Kyle stepped inside and sat in the back. He watched Elias patiently show a tiny girl how to spell the word hope. "Why are you doing this?" Kyle asked softly when the class ended. Elias turned, surprised. "Doing what?" "Helping them." Elias looked toward the children. "Because someone has to. These kids lost their planets, their parents, their homes. If Earth doesn't give them a reason to smile, what's the point of surviving?" Cale's chest felt tight. Later that night, rain poured heavily. Cale followed Elias to a quiet rooftop again, his favorite thinking place. The city lights flickered below. "You again?" Elias said, not scared. "You've been following me." Cale said nothing. Elias didn't run. He just leaned on the railing. "If you're going to rob me or kill me, do it fast." Cale stepped forward slowly. "I'm not going to kill you," he whispered. Elias looked at him. "Then why are you here?" Cale's throat burned. He opened his mouth and for the first time told the truth. "I was sent to kill you." Silence. Elias blinked. "Then why haven't you?" Kyle looked down. "Because I watched you. I saw what you did for that child. I saw you give away your food, your coat. I saw you teach aliens who fear even walking in public." "I don't understand," Elias whispered. "Are you a spy?" "I'm worse," Kyle said. "I'm a weapon." Elias gave a small laugh. "Then why do you look so lost?" Kyle looked up. Rain slid down his face like tears. "Because you smiled at me." The poisoned blade in his pocket. Cale had never hesitated before. Not on Varnock, not on Drell, not even when he had to eliminate a target in his own academy. But now, He walked the city with a poisoned blade in his pocket and his heart full of questions. The blade was small, curved and deadly, coated with a rare alien venom. One touch could stop a heart in 5 seconds. It had always done its job, until now. Kyle sat on a bench near the shelter and watched Elias hand out blankets to sleeping alien children. The man smiled even when tired, even when his coat was soaked from rain. His kindness had no limits. Kyle's hand touched the blade, inside his jacket. "This is your final chance," the commander's last message had said. "Do it tonight, or someone else will." Kale didn't want someone else to come. They wouldn't hesitate. They wouldn't care about Elias's smile or the way he talked to orphans like a father. They'd just end him. That night, Elias stayed late at the lab. Kyle broke in through the roof as silent as breath. He moved through shadows, every footstep like a whisper. His suit masked his body heat. Cameras saw nothing. The world was blind to him. Elias sat alone at a desk, reading old files. The room was quiet. A small heater hummed nearby. Kale reached into his pocket. His fingers touched the poisoned blade. He took one step closer. And then, something made him stop. On the desk was a small music box. Old, scratched, but it played a soft lullaby. Elias reached forward and opened it. A tiny hologram appeared, a woman dancing with a child in her arms. His wife, his daughter. They twirled together, happy. Elias watched them for a long moment. Then, softly, he spoke. "I miss you both, every day." Kyle's heart cracked. This was not a man building weapons, not a man planning wars. This was a man trying to survive his pain. Kale lowered the blade. He stepped back into the darkness. But as he did, his foot pressed too hard on the tile floor. Click. Elias turned sharply. "Who's there?" Kale froze. For the first time in years, he was unsure. "I know someone's there," Elias called, standing up. He looked around, heart pounding. "You've been following me for days." Kale knew he should run, but instead, he stepped into the light. Elias stared at him. I know you. You're the quiet man from the cafe, from the shelter." Kale removed his hood slowly. Underneath, his skin shifted from human tone to blue. His eyes glowed dimly in the dark. "I was sent to kill you," Kyle said. "But I didn't." Elias didn't move. His voice was calm but firm. "Why not?" Kale hesitated. "Because I watched you, and I couldn't understand why a man with nothing gave everything." Elias's voice softened. "You don't seem like a killer now." "I am," Kale replied. "I've killed many. I was trained to feel nothing." "But you do feel something now, don't you?" Elias asked. Kale's jaw clenched. "I don't know what it is." "It's called being human," Elias said gently. That word, human, hit Kale harder than any weapon. The door suddenly beeped. Someone else was trying to enter the lab. Kale's eyes widened. "Another assassin?" Elias stood. "How do you know?" Kale took out the poisoned blade and threw it across the room. "Because I was their first choice, but they don't wait long." "We have to leave," Kyle said. Elias didn't argue. They escaped through the back. Kyle shielded Elias with his body as they moved through the rain. For the first time, Kyle wasn't the hunter. He was now the protector. Back on his hidden ship, Kale activated emergency protocol. "Commander," he spoke, opening a link. The cold face appeared. "Status?" Kale stared straight into the screen. "Mission failed. Target escaped." The commander narrowed his eyes. "You dare betray the syndicate?" Kale didn't blink. "I choose to protect him. Then we will send someone else." Kale ended the call. He looked at Elias, who now sat silently in the corner of the ship watching space pass by. "You saved my life," Elias said. Kale whispered, "You saved my soul." The alien revealed. The stolen night was quiet. Inside, the small abandoned warehouse Kale had claimed as a temporary hideout Elias sat across from him, silent, confused, but strangely calm. A soft glow from Cale's communicator lit the room. Elias had spent his life studying science and logic, but nothing in his research prepared him for this moment, sitting across from an alien assassin who had been sent to kill him, and instead chose to save him. Kyle stared at his hands. They had once strangled leaders, ended rebels, and cut down targets without mercy. But tonight, they shook. "Say something," Cale muttered, voice low. Elias leaned forward slowly. "You said you're not going to kill me. But why would an assassin disobey his own empire?" Cale met his eyes. "Because for the first time, I questioned the mission." He stood up, walked to the far wall, and pressed something on the side of his arm. A faint shimmer ran through his skin, and then in a flash his disguise melted away. Elias gasped. Before him now stood the real Cale, tall, strong, with deep navy blue skin, sharp markings along his cheeks, and golden glowing veins that pulsed like lightning. His eyes were no longer human. They were alien fire. But they looked tired. Elias stood. "You look like the monsters from our history books." Cale nodded. "That's what your people call us. Monsters. Killers. Threats. And you were all of those?" "I still am," Cale said. "But you made me pause." Elias looked away for a moment. Then he said, "You should have killed me. You had many chances." "I did," Cale replied. "But I watched you save lives. I watched you teach children no one wanted. I even saw you help me. When I pretended to be injured, you didn't even know me. I thought you were homeless," Elias admitted with a nervous laugh. Kyle tilted his head. "You didn't ask for anything. You just gave." Elias shrugged. "Because it's the right thing to do." Kyle looked down. "That's not how my people think. We take. We conquer. We don't question." Elias asked softly, "Then why are you questioning now?" Kyle hesitated. "Because I feel something. When I see you, when I hear you speak, I feel alive." Elias blinked. "Alive?" Cale sat down again, this time closer. "On my world, emotions are forbidden. Compassion is weakness. Love is a disease. But here, in this strange world of yours, I feel something I cannot name." Elias was quiet. Then he said slowly, "You were taught to kill. I was taught to heal. Maybe that's why we understand each other." Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed from Cale's belt. A red light blinked. Cale's face turned serious. "They found us." Elias stood. "Who?" "Another hunter. One more loyal than I was," Cale said. "He will not talk, he will not feel. He will only complete the mission." "Then what do we do?" Elias asked, heart racing. Cale reached into his coat and tossed Elias a small disc. "Put that on your chest. It'll mask your body heat for 6 minutes. That's all I need." "You're going to fight him alone?" Elias asked. Kyle nodded. "Yes, because this time I'm not running." They moved fast through the side alleys of Sanvora. The rain poured again, almost like the sky itself wept for what was coming. In the distance, a bright green flash cut through the night. "He's close," Kyle whispered. "Stay here. If I don't return, run." Elias grabbed his arm. "Wait, why do this for me?" Cale looked him in the eyes. "Because when I looked at you, I saw something I never saw before." "What?" Cale answered quietly. "Someone I wanted to protect." He turned and vanished into the shadows. For the first time in his life, Cale wasn't hunting. He was fighting for someone. The choice that changes worlds. Lightning flashed above the rooftops of Sanvora. Cale stood still on the edge of a building, eyes locked on the figure across from him, another Threxian assassin. His name was Vor, and unlike Cale, he had no doubts, no feelings. Only one mission: Eliminate Elias Ward. Vor stepped forward, blade drawn. His voice was cold like ice. You failed the Empire. Now I finish what you couldn't. Kale's stance shifted. You're not touching him. Vor narrowed his glowing eyes. You chose a human over your own kind? Kale said nothing, but his hand reached slowly toward his weapon. Far below, Elias crouched behind a trash bin, the small disc Kale had given him blinking faintly on his chest. He couldn't see the rooftop, but he could hear parts of it, echoes of metal scraping and distant alien voices. He clenched his fists. He wanted to run, but something told him, stay. Kale needs you. On the rooftop, the wind howled between the two assassins. Do you even know what you're doing? Vor asked. You gave up rank, power, and purpose for a weak creature who will die in 100 years. Kale's voice was calm. Maybe he'll die in 100 years, but in just a few days he taught me more than the Empire did in a lifetime. You're broken, Vor hissed. No, Kale replied. I'm awake. The battle exploded. In a flash of motion, Vor lunged forward, his twin blades slicing through the air. Kyle met him with raw speed, parrying blow after blow. Sparks lit the sky as metal clashed against metal. They moved like shadows in a storm, silent, fast, deadly. But Kale had something Vor didn't, a reason to fight. Down below, Elias flinched as a blade scraped against the rooftop edge. He looked, up, eyes searching, a sudden scream, a body falling. Elias rushed out from cover just in time to see a shape crash into the alley. Kyle. He hit the ground hard, groaning. One arm was sliced, bleeding greenish blue. Sparks flew from a crack in his armor. Kyle, Elias cried, running to him. Kyle struggled to his feet, shaking. Stay. Back. Vor dropped down behind them like death itself. You were strong once, Vor said, approaching. Now look at you, broken, defending prey. Kale stood tall, his blade gone. Only his fists remained. Maybe I am broken, he said, but I'd rather be broken with a soul than whole without one. Vor lunged. Elias did the unthinkable. He stepped in front of Kale. Stop, he shouted. You want him? You'll have to go through me. Vor froze. He had killed hundreds of humans, but never one who stood tall without a weapon. Never one who stared into a monster's eyes with courage. Something flickered in his expression, and in that second of doubt, Kale grabbed a metal pipe and struck Vor hard, sending him crashing into the wall. Kale collapsed beside Elias, breathing heavy. You didn't have to do that, he said weakly. I know, Elias replied. But I wanted to. Later, as dawn broke over the city, Kale carried Vor's unconscious body into his ship. He sent a message to the Empire. Mission ended. I am no longer yours, and if you send another, I will not hold back. He shut off the signal. The war was coming. But Kyle had made his choice. He returned to Elias, who sat in the shelter surrounded by sleepy alien children. Kale sat beside him and asked, Do you still want me here, after everything? Elias looked at him with a soft smile. You came to take my life, but instead, you gave it back. Kale said nothing, but for the first time he smiled back. Hunted by the stars. The stars above Sanvora no longer looked peaceful. They shimmered like eyes watching from afar, cold, cruel, and waiting. Inside a hidden underground bunker, Kale ran diagnostics on his ship. Every system blinked red. Damaged, burned, half dead, just like him. Elias stood beside him, his hand resting on Kale's shoulder. The human had stayed, even after knowing everything, even after seeing Kale bleed. Is Vor dead? Elias asked softly. Kale shook his head. No, but I left him somewhere they won't find for days. Elias gave a weak smile. Then we still have time. Kale's eyes turned dark. Not much. The syndicate knows I betrayed them. They'll send more, smarter, deadlier. Elias stepped forward. Then we run. Kale looked at him. You'd leave your world? For me? Elias didn't blink. You gave up everything for me, it's my turn now. Within hours, they were ready. Kyle's broken ship barely started shaking as it lifted off the earth. Inside, alien children Elias had rescued were curled in sleep, wrapped in blankets. Kyle had insisted they come. Elias didn't argue. They had saved him once. Now he would save them. As they passed through Earth's upper orbit, Kale's console blinked red. Incoming transmission. He hesitated, then accepted it. A familiar voice filled the cockpit. You can run, Kale, but you can't hide. It was High Commander Rav, the one who trained him. You were our best, Rav continued. You shamed us, but more than that, you loved a human. Kale's jaw tightened. Yes, that was your final mistake. The stars ahead shimmered. 3 warships appeared like shadows from the dark, black, silent, and armed. Kyle's heart sank. They're here. Elias didn't flinch. Then we survive. Kyle flipped switches, shields rose. The ship groaned. The children were moved to a hidden compartment. Then, fire. The sky lit up as plasma shots raced toward them. Kyle swerved. Alarm screamed. The ship spun. We can't outrun them, Elias shouted. I know, Kale replied. He reached into the weapons bay and pulled out something he hadn't used in years, a black, glowing sphere. What is that? Elias asked. A Threxian heart bomb, meant for suicide missions. You're going to destroy them? Kale nodded. It's the only way. Elias stepped forward. Then I'm going with you. Kyle froze. No, you must live. Elias grabbed his hand. Not without you. Kale's voice cracked. If I fail, they'll hunt you forever. If I succeed, I want to know you're alive somewhere. Elias looked into his eyes. Then come back to me. Kyle hesitated. Then, slowly, he put the bomb away. No, he said. There's another way. Kale turned the ship toward a dead moon nearby, Varkos, a place known for magnetic storms and signal blackouts. He sent out a false distress beacon, pretending the ship was crashing. Then he cut all power. The ship went dark. Outside, the Threxian ship scanned, circled, and vanished into the stars, thinking he was dead. In the silence, Elias looked over. You tricked them. Kyle smiled faintly. The Syndicate taught me many things. Deception was their favorite. For hours, they drifted in cold space. Inside the ship, Elias wrapped a sleeping child in his coat. Kyle sat beside him, silent, then finally spoke. I was born to kill, bred for war. But now, I just want peace. Elias nodded. Then stay with us. Kyle looked around. The children, the quiet hum of life. I think I already have. A new life in the shadows. The planet was not marked on any star map. It was hidden behind broken moons and dead suns, a place no one visited, no one remembered. But here, under a soft orange sky, a new life had quietly begun. Elias stood outside a small house built from old ship parts. The walls were crooked. The roof leaked when it rained. But laughter filled the air. The alien children ran through the dusty fields, playing with sticks, chasing tiny glowing bugs. Kale watched from the hill, arms crossed, a calm look on his once hardened face. This was not war. This was peace. It had been 3 months since they faked their deaths. The galaxy believed Elias Ward was gone. The Threxian Empire believed Kale had died with him. The Syndicate had moved on. A new mission, a new assassin, but Kale no longer served them. He served no one. That evening, Elias lit a fire near the house. Kyle joined him quietly, sitting on the ground beside him. They stared into the flames. Elias smiled. Do you still hear them? Kyle nodded. Sometimes, in my dreams. Their orders, their commands. He looked at Elias. But then I hear your voice too, and it pulls me back. Elias didn't speak. He only placed a hand gently on Cale's. The former assassin flinched but didn't pull away. Later, Cale walked to the edge of the forest where the children had set up a small garden. One of the youngest, a girl with bright purple skin and wide eyes, looked up at him. "Mr. Cale," she whispered, "is it true you used to be a monster?" Cale crouched down. "Yes, I was." She tilted her head. "Do you still eat people?" Cale blinked, then let out a short laugh. "No, not anymore." The girl nodded and handed him a flower. "Then you're not a monster now." Cale stared at the flower in his hand for a long time after she ran off. That night, Elias found Kyle sitting alone under the stars. "You're always up here," Elias said. "It's quiet," Kyle replied, "and I like watching the stars." "Even though they hunted you?" Kyle gave a small smile. "Because they remind me who I used to be, and how far I've come." Elias sat beside him. "The others may never know what you did," Elias said. "You saved me. You saved the kids. You walked away from everything." Cale looked at him. "I didn't walk away from everything." Elias raised a brow. "No?" Kyle turned to him slowly. "I kept the only thing that mattered." In the distance, a child screamed. Both men stood up fast, but it was only laughter. The children were playing tag in the dark, chasing each other, with glowing stones. Elias let out a breath of relief. "You ever think about the future?" Kyle looked up at the stars. "Every day." "What do you see?" Kyle turned to him. "You, the kids, this place, and maybe—" He hesitated. "A life worth living," Elias smiled. "Then let's live it." In time, the village grew. More refugees arrived, alien mothers, wounded fighters, forgotten people, and none of them feared Cale. They called him the Quiet Guardian. He never talked much, but he always came when they called. Years later, when ships passed near the system, they often reported strange sightings. A man with glowing eyes walking among children. A tall figure in blue helping an alien mother lift water. A shadow on a rooftop, watching. With silent purpose, some said he was a ghost. Others claimed he was an ancient warrior. But the villagers knew the truth. He was the assassin who chose love over orders. And in the quiet corners of the universe, where the stars watched silently, a new legend was born. Not of a killer, but of a protector. The end.